Most men do not fail because they are weak. They fail because they never choose a path, and a life without a path slowly chooses weakness for them. They wake each morning already distracted. They react before they think. They consume noise, opinions, pleasures, and call this chaos freedom. But the ancient warriors saw what modern men refuse to see. A life without discipline does not stay still. It decays, quietly, patiently, without drama. In old Japan, there was a rule passed from master to student in silence. It was never written, never explained in full, not because it was complicated, but because it was dangerous when half understood. The rule carried a warning. The man who avoids it will live comfortably, safely. He will never be tested enough to break, and never forged enough to matter. Average in strength, average in spirit, average in the memory of the world. This is where our story begins, with a man who is not broken, not lazy, not lost, just drifting, believing that comfort is peace, until he meets silence, not the calming silence sold in books, but the silence that exposes you, the silence that asks who you are when nothing distracts you. A mentor appears, not to teach skill, but to remove illusion. Comfort is stripped away. Ego is cornered. Fear is invited closer, not pushed aside. Because mastery is not born from motivation, it is born from submission to an ancient system that demands presence before power. This is not a story about becoming better than others. It is about no longer being ruled by weakness disguised as choice. The samurai understood this truth. Discipline is not restriction. It is the doorway to strength. And once you see that doorway, you either step through or spend your life explaining why you never did. If something in you stirred just now, remain. The path is opening. The comfort of being unchallenged. He lived a life that looked complete from the outside. A steady routine, predictable days, small comforts earned without struggle. Nothing was technically wrong, and that was the problem. Each morning followed the same pattern, as if written in a ledger no one questioned. He woke not with intention but with habit. The body moved before the mind arrived. Coffee, screens, noise, rituals meant to avoid silence, not honor it. There was a locked drawer in his room he never opened. Inside were old notebooks, abandoned plans, fragments of a self he once believed he might become. He told himself he had outgrown those dreams. Psychology has a softer word for this: ego-protective rationalization, the mind's way of calling retreat wisdom. Comfort had trained him well. It whispered that discipline was obsession, that structure was rigidity, that choosing one path meant losing all others. So he stayed unchallenged, and slowly, invisibly, something inside him thinned. The warrior spirit does not die loudly. It fades when it is never summoned. Outside, the town moved the same way, busy, distracted, loud. No one spoke of what was missing. No one ever does. And this is where decay first disguises itself as peace. At night, when the town quieted, the silence felt heavy rather than calm. He filled it with sound, voices from elsewhere, borrowed opinions, endless movement, anything to avoid hearing the one question that refused to disappear. Is this all you are? Modern neuroscience explains what ancient warriors already knew. A mind without challenge begins to conserve energy, not build it. Neural pathways narrow. Risk feels dangerous. Stillness feels threatening. The brain learns comfort the way muscle learns weakness, through repetition. There was a red thread tied around his wrist once, a reminder given years ago by someone who believed in him. He had removed it quietly, telling himself symbols were childish, yet the memory of it burned more than its absence. Around him, men aged without growing. Their laughter was loud, their eyes tired. They spoke of someday the way others speak of the dead, with reverence and distance. This was not tragedy. This was something worse. A slow erasure no one mourned. He did not know it yet, but comfort had already taken something from him. Not his livelihood, not his relationships, his edge. And somewhere beyond this routine, silence was waiting, not to comfort him, but to judge him. The next step would not arrive gently. The encounter with silence. Silence did not arrive as calm. It arrived as removal. The noise stopped first. Screens went dark, voices thinned, routines broke like brittle twigs. What remained felt exposed, raw, unforgiving. He noticed his breathing the way a man notices a stranger in a dark room, with suspicion. Fear surfaced, not as threat, but as information. A tightness in the chest, a restless jaw, the mind reaching for distraction and finding none. That was when the mentor appeared. Not announced, not introduced. A presence more than a person. He did not offer comfort. He asked a question and left it unfinished, like a door left ajar. What do you become when nothing is watching you perform? Ancient discipline entered quietly, not as punishment, but as presence. Stand, sit, breathe. Observe. Neuroscience would later name this attentional retraining. The samurai had no name for it, only practice. In the stillness, a mirror formed, and it showed a mind scattered by years of avoidance. Fear was no longer an enemy. It was pointing somewhere. The first night broke him in small ways. Sleep came in fragments. Thoughts circled like crows. He reached for habits that were no longer there and felt the phantom ache of them. The mentor returned at dawn, eyes calm, voice low. No praise, no correction. Only another question, delivered like a blade wrapped in cloth. What are you running from when you refuse to be still? Something shifted in the room. Silence thickened, no longer empty but dense, charged. Psychology would later call this exposure. The nervous system learning that discomfort does not kill you. The samurai called it standing inside fear until it lost its authority. A cracked wooden floor creaked beneath his feet as he stood motionless. Time stretched. The mind protested. Then, quietly, something loosened. Fear did not vanish. It softened. It became directional. He saw how noise had protected him from choice, how movement had excused inaction, how comfort had disguised cowardice as peace. The town outside felt distant now, unreal in its constant motion. Inside, something ancient was waking. He did not yet know the rule, but silence had already begun teaching it. And soon, he would be asked to obey something he could not negotiate. The rule that breaks the ego. The rule was not announced. It was uncovered, like a burned ledger found beneath clean floors. The mentor placed nothing in his hands. No weapon, no scroll, no technique to practice. Only a sentence spoken once, then never repeated the same way again. Choose one path. Obey it daily, without negotiation. The mind reacted instantly. Questions rushed forward like soldiers defending a crumbling gate. For how long? What if it's wrong? What if something better appears? This was ego. Not loud, not arrogant, but terrified. Because structure exposes weakness, and discipline removes the comfort of excuses. A red thread was tied again around his wrist, rough and deliberate. Not a symbol of hope, but of constraint. Neuroscience would later explain it as identity compression. When choices narrow, power concentrates. The samurai knew it differently. When a river stopped splitting, it cut stone. He felt anger first, then dread. Then the unbearable realization that freedom had been his favorite lie. The rule demanded daily obedience, not motivation, not inspiration. Emotion was irrelevant. Presence was mandatory. And somewhere deep inside, something ancient recoiled, because it knew what this rule would cost. The second day was harder than the first. Not because the task was difficult, but because it was simple. Wake, practice, endure. No variation, no reward, no audience. The mind began to bargain. It offered intelligence, flexibility, past effort, as if discipline could be negotiated like a treaty. This was the ego's final defense: exceptions. The mentor watched without interruption, then spoke once, calmly, with the weight of centuries behind the words. Emotion rises and falls. Systems remain. Modern psychology would confirm it. Identity is not changed by intensity, but by repetition. Neural pathways obey what is done consistently, not what is felt passionately. The samurai designed their discipline to survive grief, fear, boredom, and doubt, because they expected all of them. That night, he burned an old notebook. Pages filled with intentions never acted on. The fire did not feel dramatic. It felt necessary. Something inside him protested, loudly, desperately. But beneath the noise, a quieter sensation emerged: relief. For the first time, there was no decision to make, only obedience to a chosen path, and that frightened him more than freedom ever had, because he could no longer pretend he didn't know what must be done. The next phase would test whether discipline could survive solitude. Walking the path alone, no one noticed when he began to change. That was the first test. The town moved as it always had. Loud mornings, familiar complaints, faces repeating the same expressions like worn masks. He walked among them quieter now, carrying a discipline no one could see. The practice was small, almost insulting in its simplicity. Wake before comfort. Move the body before the mind argued. Sit in silence while fear searched for a voice and found none. There were no signs of progress, no sudden strength, no praise, no confirmation that this path was working. Just repetition, clean, merciless, patient. In solitude, presence sharpened. Fear still arrived, but softer now, like a knock instead of a break-in. Neuroscience calls this habituation. The samurai called it befriending the blade. At night, he passed the locked drawer without opening it. Some identities were better left sealed. This was not transformation yet. This was endurance. And endurance, unobserved, is where most men quit. The next step would ask whether discipline could survive invisibility. Weeks passed, then months. Time lost its sharp edges and became something smoother, heavier. The red thread around his wrist frayed, not from neglect, but from friction, from work, from weather, from effort repeated without witness. It became a quiet record of persistence, no longer symbolic, simply worn. Silence changed its shape. What once felt like judgment now felt like ground. He stood on it, steady. The town began to feel different, though nothing in it had changed. Conversations sounded thinner. Complaints recycled themselves. He noticed how often people performed their suffering, how rarely they confronted it. There was a moment, small, almost forgettable, when fear arrived and failed to command him. No drama, no victory music, just a pause, and obedience continued. This is how mastery grows, not in bursts, but in deposits. Psychology confirms it. Identity shifts when behavior remains stable under stress. The ancient system was designed for this exact moment, when enthusiasm dies and only structure remains. The warrior spirit did not awaken with a roar. It stood up quietly, and for the first time, he realized something unsettling. He no longer needed to be seen. But soon, the world would test whether this strength could remain hidden. Strength without display. When he returned fully to the world, nothing about him announced change. No sharper words, no louder posture, no visible hunger for recognition. And yet, people felt it. He moved differently now. Not faster, but deliberate. Not harder, but grounded. Like weight placed correctly over bone. Conversations no longer pulled him off center. Insults landed and slid away. Praise arrived and found no place to cling. The nervous system had learned something ancient. Regulation is power. Psychology calls it emotional containment. The samurai called it standing in presence. The mentor was absent now, not gone, simply unnecessary. True teachers disappear when the student no longer needs permission to obey the path. A cracked cross hung at the edge of town, long ignored. He noticed it now, not as faith, but as fracture held upright. Strength without display looks like this: nothing added, nothing wasted. Others mistook his silence for distance. They could not see the discipline holding him together. But inside, something irreversible had happened. He was no longer reacting to life. He was meeting it. And the world was about to test whether this strength could remain unspoken. There was a moment, small, almost forgettable, when conflict appeared. A familiar injustice, a sharp word meant to provoke. In the past, he would have responded instantly, defending a version of himself that needed protection. This time, he paused. Silence stretched, not empty, but weighted. The other man grew uncomfortable, as people often do when their emotional hooks fail. No argument followed, no victory speech, only presence. Neuroscience explains this shift. When the prefrontal cortex leads, impulse loses command. The ancient system trained this long before brain scans existed. He walked away, not because he was afraid, but because nothing needed proving. That was the difference. The town felt it now, even if it could not name it. Energy shifted around him. Some leaned closer, curious. Others pulled away, unsettled by a strength that did not perform. The red thread finally snapped one evening, falling unnoticed to the ground. He did not replace it. The rule no longer needed reminder. It lived in him. And in that quiet confidence was a truth most never reach. Discipline does not make you rigid. It makes you free. But freedom carries a final responsibility, one he had not yet been told. The choice that never ends. He believed for a moment that the hardest part was over, that mastery, once earned, would remain. That illusion arrived quietly, more dangerous than fear. The mentor returned only once, not in person, but in memory. A sentence resurfaced while he stood alone at dawn, breath steady, posture familiar. The path does not end. It waits. Average life had not disappeared. It lingered at the edges. Soft mornings justified delays, the promise of rest without cost. It waited patiently, the way gravity waits for balance to fail. Psychology confirms this cruelty. The brain adapts to strength as easily as it adapts to weakness. Ego does not die, it evolves. Fear returned too, but refined. No longer loud, no longer obvious. It arrived disguised as wisdom. You've earned ease, you've proven enough. He recognized the danger immediately. This was not temptation, this was erosion. The ancient system accounted for this moment. Not with inspiration, but renewal. Daily, relentless, uncelebrated. Discipline was never a milestone. It was a vow repeated in silence. And standing there, he understood something unsettling. The greatest threat was no longer the world. It was forgetting why he chose the path at all. The final step would not test his strength, but his memory. There was no ceremony to mark the continuation. No bell, no witness, no final approval. Just morning returning. Again. He noticed how easily discipline could become invisible, even to the one who practiced it. How the mind, once sharpened, began searching for shortcuts dressed as balance. Neuroscience calls this cognitive drift, the slow relaxation of standards once vigilance fades. The samurai had a harsher word for it: forgetting. He reopened the locked drawer for the first time in years. Inside, there were no regrets left to burn, only space. Empty, waiting to be filled again by action or excuse. Outside, the town carried on as it always had. Some people watched him now, uncertain why his presence unsettled them. Others dismissed him, sensing that his path made no room for their comfort. He tied no new thread around his wrist. The rule did not need symbols anymore. it needed remembrance. Because the path offers no guarantees, only direction. And discipline, once loosened, does not warn you before it leaves. As he stepped forward into another ordinary day, a question hovered. Not threatening, not loud, but sharp enough to cut. Would he choose the path again tomorrow? Or quietly become someone who once did? That question, unanswered, followed him into the silence.